The eerie legend of the haunted bride and her wedding day. It was an eerie sight that no one would forget in a hurry. A woman dressed in a wedding gown standing at the altar with a veil covering her face. But she wasn't a bride waiting for her groom. She was a ghost haunting the church every year on her wedding day. And if anyone dared to look under her veil, they would be met with a horrifying sight that would haunt their dreams forever. The legend of the bride, who only appears once a year, is both mysterious and terrifying. And today we'll explore the chilling tale behind this ghostly apparition. In the heart of England, nestled amidst rolling hills and ancient woodlands, stood an old church. Its weathered stones whispered tales of centuries past, and its stained glass windows cast eerie shadows on the worn wooden pews below. It was a place where time seemed to stand still, and where the veil between the living and the dead was at its thinnest. And it was here, in this place of hallowed memory, that the legend of the haunted bride was born. Now, before we delve into the chilling details of this haunting tale, let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard of a ghost bride? Do you believe that such ethereal beings exist? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your stories might just add another layer to this already haunting narrative. The legend goes back several centuries to a time when superstition and folklore ran rampant. The year was 1644, and the village of Oakhaven was preparing for the annual May Day celebrations. The villagers were a pious lot, and the centerpiece of their festivities was a church service at St. Michael's Church, followed by a grand procession through the streets. The air was thick with anticipation and excitement, and the children were especially enthralled. For them, May Day was a time of magic and wonder. Amongst the villagers were two young sweethearts, Thomas Ashton and Anne Worthington. They were deeply in love, and their affection for each other was evident to all who knew them. Thomas was a handsome young farmer, his face tanned and weathered from working the land, but his eyes held a kindness and warmth that drew people to him. Anne, on the other hand, was the daughter of the village elder. She was known for her infectious laughter and her spirit that could light up even the gloomiest of days. Her beauty was not just skin deep, however, for she possessed a purity of heart that made her truly radiant. As the day of the May festivities approached, so did their wedding day. The entire village was buzzing with excitement, and preparations were underway to make it a day to remember. On May Eve, the night before the wedding, Thomas and Anne couldn't sleep. Their excitement was palpable, and they spent the night talking in hushed tones about their future together. As dawn broke, they fell asleep in each other's embrace, dreaming of a life filled with love and happiness. When they awoke, the first thing they did was exchange rings, a simple ceremony that symbolized their eternal bond. Then they got ready for the day ahead. Anne donned a beautiful white gown, her eyes sparkling with joy. Thomas, too, looked dashing in his finest clothes, his face beaming with pride and anticipation. Hand in hand, they walked to the church, their love for each other evident for all to see. The church was packed, and the ceremony was a joyous affair. The villagers, with their blessings, the young couple was pronounced man and wife. As the wedding march echoed through the church, they exited hand in hand, showered with rice and flower petals by the cheering crowd. It was a perfect day, and they couldn't wait to celebrate with their friends and family. The reception was held in a meadow outside the village. There was music and dancing, and the sound of laughter carried on the breeze. As the evening wore on, the festivities reached a fever pitch. Suddenly, the sky darkened, and a violent storm rolled in. The villagers, caught off guard, scrambled for shelter. In the midst of the chaos, Anne disappeared. A search party was quickly assembled, and they combed through the village and the surrounding areas, but there was no sign of the bride. They returned to the reception area, their faces etched with worry. Just then, a figure emerged from the rain. It was Anne, soaked to the bone, her wedding dress torn and muddy. But it was her face that truly frightened them. Her eyes were blank, devoid of the joy and sparkle that had captivated them just hours before. She was like a lifeless doll, her expression vacant and her movements stiff. Terrified, the villagers rushed to her side. But Anne didn't respond. No matter how much they called out to her, she remained unresponsive. It was as if the life had been drained out of her, leaving behind an empty shell. Panic spread like wildfire. Some whispered that she had been abducted, while others blamed the storm for driving her insane. but no one could have guessed the horrifying truth. For in the midst of the commotion, Thomas had slipped away. He had gone to the church to retrieve something he had forgotten. But when he entered the building, he found a sight that made his blood run cold. Standing at the altar was a figure that was supposed to be Anne. She was wearing her wedding dress, but it was now tattered and dirty, mirroring Anne's state when they found her. But it was her face that truly horrified Thomas. He had seen that look before, that vacant, lifeless stare. As he watched in horror, the figure began to move. It glided down the aisle towards him, and with each step it seemed to grow more solid, more real. Terror gripped Thomas. He stumbled back, knocking over a chair. The noise brought the figure to a halt, and it turned towards him, its face now illuminated by a flickering candle. It was Anne, or what was left of her. Thomas screamed, and his voice echoed through the empty church. The figure advanced, and he ran, desperately seeking refuge at the back of the church. But there, too, was another horrifying sight. On the wall was a large painting that had hung there for generations. It depicted a wedding between two young lovers. But the bride's face was covered by a heavy black veil, and as Thomas stared at the painting, he realized with a growing sense of dread that the veil was not just a mere piece of fabric. It was a portal to another realm, a gateway to the grave. With a final surge of strength, he tore the veil from the painting, revealing the ghastly visage of the bride. It was a face of unimaginable horror, a twisted mockery of Anne's beautiful features. The bride's eyes burned with an otherworldly fire, and her mouth was stretched into a grotesque smile, revealing teeth that were long and sharp like those of a carnivorous beast. Thomas, overcome with terror, fainted. When he came to, he was outside the church, the veil in his hand. The storm had passed, and a faint glow lingered in the sky. The villagers were there, their faces etched with concern. They helped him up, and he told them what he had seen, but they didn't believe him. To them, it sounded like the ramblings of a madman. But Thomas knew the truth. He had seen the bride, not just any bride, but the ghost bride of St. Michael's Church. And as the years passed, his nightmares of the bride only grew stronger, haunting his dreams every May Eve. And so it is that every year on May Eve, the ghost bride is said to appear at the altar of St. Michael's Church, waiting for her groom who never comes. If anyone dares to look under her veil, they are cursed to wander the earth for eternity, forever seeking the love of the living, but doomed to find only death. The legend serves as a chilling reminder of the thin veil that separates our world from the next, and of the horrors that may lie just beyond our perception. And as the clock strikes midnight on May Eve, let us hope that we are not among those who hear the mournful strains of the bride's lament. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the heart of a haunting legend. What are your thoughts on the story of the haunted bride? Do you believe in ghosts? Share your experiences and theories in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like and subscribe for more spine-tingling stories. Until next time, stay safe and keep an eye on those veils, for you never know what might lurk beneath them.